Hey, what's up everyone? So this is going to be my MLS fantasy team video. There are going to be no cuts, no edits in this one. Just going to give you all what I have in one take. So if I screw up, well, I'm too lazy right now to even try and edit anything. So in goal, I have Sean Johnson. He is home. The New York City FC are home against DC United, and I think Sean Johnson's going to have a good game against a pretty good attacking team, DC United, with the Lucian Acosta, Wayne Rooney, and plenty more of a good opening day for DC United. I think with the smaller field in New York City FC, it's going to be a lot harder then, but I think that's why I chose Sean Johnson. My defenders, you see, I kind of based off all my picks, my players, based off the average points that they've received in the first week. Obviously, you've got to go through the cycles of which players you want to keep, which players you want to dump. Obviously, I didn't record my first MLS fantasy team, so you guys don't really get an idea of what my team is. So hopefully, you guys see now this is the team that I'm going with starting this week. So. We have a defender from Houston Dynamo, a defender from Vancouver Whitecaps, a defender from Montreal Impact, and a defender from the Columbus Crew. And they all average pretty good enough points. You know, we have 8, 11, 9, and 10. So first opening day for them was pretty good. Hopefully they can continue their success, in week 2. In the midfield, the same thing. I kind of based that off of the average points that they have in the first week. Obviously, a lot lower than the defenders, but obviously they had to produce something in order to receive a decent amount of points. We have Canoes, Lee Win, Barrios, Russell. I think this is a pretty good setup personally for me. Last week I know that I had Roman Alessandrini, because I thought he would have a good game despite him going out of an injury, so didn't really produce much points for me there. That's my midfield, and my forwards include Chris Wondolowski and Jordan Morris. Jordan Morris had a stellar game opening day against FC Cincinnati, and against Colorado I think maybe the same success can happen. I did have Tim Howard as one of my goalies, but I always think to myself, do I want the same, the counter opponents playing against each other? So if I had Tim Howard as a goalie and Jordan Morris and their teams are playing against each other, I don't really think that one of them, you should have both of them, because obviously one might do better than the other. Just depends on how the situation is occurring. And for my substitutes, not really, at the point of the goalkeeper was basically amount of what I had remaining left from my salary cap, as well as my other defender. But we have Roldan and Sapong from the Chicago Fire and Seattle Sounders. So I think Sapong didn't have a good game against the LA Galaxy in week 1. He scored an opening goal for his team, and I think that success can also continue against Orlando FC. I truly believe that. I think I made in my previous video for my week 2 predictions, I think I chose Chicago Fire over Orlando City, and this is my week 2 team. I think I'm really satisfied with why I chose these players. So a lot of the games that we're looking at, I also came in effect into my decision of picking the players as well. You have, okay, so reason 1 for Lee Win, I think against the Portland Timbers, I think that's going to be a really good game. LAFC and Portland Timbers is one of the gap games. I was watching one of the videos for the MLS experts explaining that. That's going to be a really tough game to really impose the players to choose from, because it's obviously going to be either an attacking minded game, defensive holding game, And I think it could go either way. I think I honestly think that this game might end up in a draw, but I have Portland Timbers as as the victors on the road, so that's going to be a huge for them. Another game that I really like to see is Sporting Kansas City and the Philadelphia Union, which is why I really chose Johnny Russell in the midfield. I figured that Philadelphia tied their I believe that they tied their opening day week 1, so that's why I pretty much chose Johnny Russell, because against the Philadelphia Union, I think Sporting Kansas City have had success, and I think that at home, I think they're going to get the win. Another game, yeah, Seattle Sounders and Colorado Rapids. I think Seattle Sounders at home are going to have another good game. What else? Either game, a lot of these games are, are really a toss-up between the players and that are enlisted. So, basically, the most points that that want to infer to you is look at which player might perform against the team that they're playing, either if they're at home or away. Most teams, so let's see here, we have the Houston Dynamo defender at home, Vancouver Whitecaps away, Montreal Impact away, and Columbus Crew away or home. I don't know. Let me look at that again. Yeah. So they're away. So the only player that's home is the the defender from the Houston Dynamo. In the midfield, you have DC United midfielder away on the road at New York City FC. Lee Win at home, Barrios at home, and Johnny Russell home. So really chose the players that I think might perform well at home versus the players that might not do away on the road. And Chris Wondolowski, who knows what's going to happen with the San Jose Earthquakes this year. I guess Minnesota United team that came out with a 3-1 victory against the Vancouver Whitecaps last week could be troublesome for the San Jose Earthquakes, who we don't recognize anything yet from. But I chose Chris Wondolowski because I think he might end up scoring maybe 1 goal, maybe having an assist. Despite him only having 2 points averaged last week, I think against Minnesota United at home, I think he's going to get a couple goals maybe. And Jordan Morris, like I said, with the Seattle Sounders and Colorado Rapids, Jordan Morris had an opening day galore with his return, and that's why I chose him. And I also am looking on the website for MLS Fantasy, so my expertise isn't always all there, but as a preference, I like to give you guys my opinion. And so we're looking at the rankings for fantasy. We have Brad Guzan as number 1 against Atlanta and versus Cincinnati. I think that game is really going to be one-sided. We'll see. I think it would be a shock to see if FC Cincinnati came out with a victory against Atlanta United at home. Like, come on. Like, they were on the road against DC United, so you can obviously give them leeway right there, but their first game at home, I think they should be able to come out on top against a new expansion team. You also have Stephen Fry, Seattle at Colorado, Chimilia, Sporting Kansas City, Philadelphia. I think that would be another good one for a goalkeeper. Nick Raimondo, Real Salt Lake versus Vancouver, also good. I think the prices for the goalkeepers are pretty well priced too. Sean Johnson, like I said, I had Sean Johnson, New York City versus DC. I think that's going to be a good Eastern matchup. So we'll see how that one occurs. David Osted also had a great game against the LA Galaxy, saving a couple shots from close range, from Zlatan Ibrahimovic's shoulder, header, arm, whatever you want to call that. That was a great reaction. Joe Willis from Houston, Tyler Miller from LAFC, Jesse Gonzalez from Dallas, FC Dallas, and Daniel Vega from San Jose. So pretty good options to choose from for the goalkeepers. I think you also want to keep in mind the team that they're playing and maybe the opportunities that the opponent team might have against them maybe might consider how many saves they get, how many clean sheets they'll have. Can they produce on the counters for the goalkeeper? So that's a good list of goalkeepers, I think, in for the Fantasy Week 2 rankings. Defenders, there's a pretty long list for the defenders too as well. I didn't really choose. I chose Johnny Russell, like I said. He was one on the list. We'll go down the list for you guys. Ranked number 1 is Graham Zusi, Sporting Kansas City at Philadelphia. Leonardo Gonzalez Perez at Atlanta Cincinnati. Walker Zimmerman, Michael Parkhurst, Miles Robinson, Mikey Ambrose. You know, we got Matt Beasler, Edgar Castillo, Kevin Laird, Anton Tennenholm, Chad Marshall, Brad Smith. You know, I chose Chad Marshall in week 1, but I don't think he really gave me much production in the first week. He only gave me about 3 points, which I was really expecting a lot more from him in week 1, but I mean, what can you say? It was more of an attacking game for them in week 1. Yeah. Moving on, number 12, Brad Smith. 13, Kim Kihee. Ryan Hollandhead, Matt Hedges from Dallas. Roberto Ziegler from Dallas. Harrison Uffel, Brooks Lennon, Reggie Cannon, and Larry's Mabiala, whatever. However you say it, guys. So another good list from the midfield. I think, again, the biggest thing that I want you, if you're going to listen to my advice, is to consider the team which the opponent is playing, either if they're at home or away, and what production they can produce in that type of game. So if they're home, how can the midfield defenders, the team, cohesively play to make that player impact the game a lot more? So I think that's a pretty good list for the defensive side of the game. So midfielders, no wonder why I didn't read his name. So okay. Anyways, moving on. For the midfielders, Nicolas Ladero. I think especially the game that you really have to look at is the Seattle Sounders and Colorado Rapids. I think this one, for me personally, is going to lead more towards the Seattle Sounders at home. I think they've always played well at home, and it's a very difficult atmosphere to play on the road at Central League Field. So I would consider a lot of Seattle Sounders players in this week, maybe as well as the Atlanta versus Cincinnati game. I think Atlanta can produce maybe a lot more than a really good DC United team. So we'll have to see that. We have Pity Martinez, Ezekiel Barco, Alberto Rusnak from Real Salt Lake, Maxim Morales from New York City FC, Ignacio Piatti. See, I did have Ignacio Piatti on my fantasy team, but again, one of the things that I really looked at was how much did the player average in the previous week, and I know maybe that's not always the best case to pick the players that you want to decide. You know, you also have to think about the cap space that you have for your team and how much can you afford with the players that you have. And don't always go single-handed with the team that you just pick. You know, you have to have a combination of players that, you know, range from, you know, poor to great. How can one player significantly change the dynamic of the game? We have a lot of, you know, midfielders. You have also Dilo Belletti. Like I said, the biggest games that I think you guys should look at are Seattle Sounders, Colorado Rapids, Sporting Kansas City, Philadelphia Union, New York City FC, DC United, Atlanta United, FC Cincinnati, LAFC, and Portland Timbers. You know, each week is going to be very difficult to select players because we don't know always how they're going to perform against that team. We can only look at what they've already done. We have, like I said, Johnny Russell from Sporting Kansas City, Lucha Acosta from DC United. I remember that they were talking in the video that maybe you should avoid him because playing in a smaller width field will kind of hinder the ability to spread the field field out as much as you want to. We have Dimir, I'm going to botch the name, Kriakak. That's not even right at all. So yeah, I'm just reading the game, the list from the MLS Fantasy rankings. So I think you guys should definitely look at this out, because it definitely will give you not just a really good inside detail, but it's just kind of giving you a look at what player ranks against that weak team. Like from Marco Beyond, he's number 15. He's Philadelphia Sporting Kansas City. So you either want to, either one, look at the team that is playing home or away, depending on the player that you're picking. So if you're picking a visiting team against a home team, you might want to consider that type of team. What team is playing on the road? If they might have that success winning, even if having a tie could also improve your chances for getting that points. Federico Higuain, Columbus and Crew versus the New England Revolution, I think could be a good game. Columbus Crew is on the road at New England Revolution. A lot of guys. Lee Win is one of the players that I also have, because he, against Portland Timbers, that's going to be an even match, so he might produce the points that I'm hoping to, that I'm looking for. And finally, the forwards. The forwards on this list, number 1 is Josef Martinez, and number 2, Carlos Vela. I think these are one of the 2 players that we were hoping for a big week in week 1. But I think Carlos, in my opinion, I think Carlos Vela might have a better opportunity to have a slighter edge in points. But Josef Martinez might end up scoring more. Also, one of the points that they made that I watched is the risk versus the reward. How much risk do you want to put into a higher priced player if they're not going to give you much reward? And if a lower priced player is going to give you more of a reward, then there's low risk because you're spending less. And I think that's really important, because you kind of want to not spend your money all on expensive players, because maybe they're not going to perform that well, even though that they're high on the level. You want to spread out. It's all about diversity, spreading out your money in players that will show you their opportunities and success wherever they're playing at. And number 3, Raul Ruiz, Zlatan Ibrahimovic. That game, LA Galaxy and the FC Dallas, I think it's going to be a good game, because FC Dallas, like I said in one of my videos, that I always thought FC Dallas were a really good attacking team on the counter. They have speed. They have a good game plan each week that they come out and execute. And I think at home against LA Galaxy didn't play really well at all. I mean, not until they scored their first opening goal with Daniel Steres. They played a much better game after that. So if LA Galaxy come out the way that they played against the Chicago Fire, and if like FC Dallas or like a team like Seattle Sounders, it's going to be a really rough day for the LA Galaxy. And that's hard for me to say because I'm an LA Galaxy fan, so you can always hope for the best. But let's be moving on. You have Alexandro Mietara from New York City FC, Darwin Quintero. He produced a lot of points last week. I was really surprised. Like I said before, I'm not really hooked on this Minnesota United team yet, but I think as one of the newer expansion teams in the recent years, you always kind of wish that they had some success, but maybe this is finally the year. They made some moves in the offseason. Wayne Rooney from DC United, I think, might have a good game. Just depends on how the DC United players come with their game plan and what they want to do with a smaller width field. So, interesting stuff. What else we have? Diego Rossi, number 14, LAFC. Again, a lot of the names that are coming up are from these, I think, bigger matchups like LAFC, Portland Timbers, Atlanta United FC, maybe New York City FC and DC United. That's another big game. Sporting Kansas City and Philadelphia Union. Probably like my fourth game on the list. So lots of fun games this week. We'll have to see how well the games perform. I hope this video gave you guys some insight on what prediction players that I wanted to give you. I want to give out a shout out to the person, the first commenter on one of my videos. I really appreciate you because you gave me an opportunity to look at what you guys want to hear. It's going to be a while for me to actually try and find it because we're going to look at it right here. Who was it? Manny Miwala asked, any fantasy predictions for individual players? I hope this video helped you if you're watching this. Thank you guys. I think that's a good enough explanation from me, and I hope you guys really dive into selecting critical players if they're playing either at home or away, and what team that they're playing. High risk reward for producing, low risk, high reward, no reward, high risk. All that really comes in contributions to really trying to select your team. Thank you guys for watching this video, and I'll definitely see you guys in the next week.